Hello everyone, and welcome back to 4 Kilobyte Shorts Let's Play of Kerbal Space Program with Kerbal Space Adventures. We had a little bit of trouble with a bit of science earlier, as you are all aware, and so because of that, I did a little bit of checking around and I decided to go a little bit of a different route. Now, what we're going to be doing here is, I've already kind of built this, so I'm going to go ahead and show you guys what it is. We need to take a few of these up. Now, as you can see, I already have it in 3 parts, and it is indeed a satellite system. It is a communication satellite for here around Kerbal, because in Kerbal Space Program, Kerbal Space Adventures, we are using the remote tech satellite system, and we're going to need these things if we're going to communicate with our satellites way out in space. We're going to launch probes and things like that, and since we are using the TAC life support module, what that means is we can't just be sending Kerbals out there. We have to be sending probes and bases and supply depots and things like that. And of course, to do that, you have to use a probe, and to use a probe, you have to have this. So, as you can see, this is going to be our satellite. Now, I've already put together a ship previously, which we're going to go ahead and load up. I'm going to go ahead and load it out on the launch pad. Now, because it is a new design, I would normally show it, but what we're going to do is, again, I'm trying out new formats here in Kerbal Space Adventures before we start Season 7, and this is a new format. So here is what we're going to be launching. Now, as I said, I built a ship previously, so I'm going to go ahead and get it out into space, and it is piloted by an actual Kerbal. So, of course, if anything goes wrong, you guys will be the first to know. But if not, I will see you guys out there when we're about to launch our first satellite. So I will see you guys there. Alright everybody, here we are in geosynchronous orbit around Kerbin. As you can see, Kerbal Space Command is right below us, and we have 4 satellites. 4 satellites, not just one. I wasn't just going to bring one. 4 satellites, which is enough to make a geosynchronous satellite system around Kerbin. Now, as you can see, all 4 satellites are in one place. Doesn't do as much good. But what we are going to do is we're going to release one of these satellites here at the 6-hour orbital period mark. Now, it is a little bit off, but we do have fuel tanks on these little guys, which can adjust. From there, what I'm going to do is we're going to go ahead and go around the planet. We're going to let time basically be on our side, because we've used 6 days of our 80-day food, I guess you can say, food, water, oxygen, and we have RTG, so basically we have infinite power. So we can be up here for 74 more days without even a blip. Now, because of that, what we're going to do is we're going to release one of these, and we're just going to gently slow down, and we're going to let Kerbin catch up to us. Now, when we do that, it's just going to adjust our position, and we're going to put these satellites around 4 key locations around Kerbin at 6-hour orbital periods, which should lock them into position. There may be a little bit of drift here and there, but provided that we have 4, minimum is 3, but provided we have 4 is actually a really great number, because if there is any drift, it should be minimal, and each satellite should catch up to and or keep up with the other one. So we do have this one long antenna here. It's good for like 20 million miles, I think. 20 million meters, 20 million meters for the Omni range, which is how they're connected to KSC at 2 million meters. And they'll be able to connect to each other around Kerbin without a problem. And then we have the big dishes here, which are good up to 90 million. No, 90. When it's on, it's like 90 gajillion. It basically can reach the orbit of Elu for communication purposes. So these are going to be the only satellites we're going to need for the purposes of contacting anything in line of sight to Kerbin, which is great. We are going to have to do other things, though, when it comes to getting to the moon. If we go to the moon, even if we just go to the moon, locally to the moon, we're on the other side of the moon, we don't have line of sight on these, and so these will only work for long-range line of sight communications. That's it. So we're still going to need other satellite systems and other satellite relays around other planets and things like that, but this is a great start, especially since we can get it all done at once. So let's go ahead and just drop one of these guys off. I think for the purposes of safety and fun, we're going to go ahead and drop off the one closest to Kerbin, just because, and we can do that just by activating the decoupler here, and bam, and there it goes. Nice little gentle push, and it's going to float away. Now, because its antenna is on, it will continue to communicate, and then from here, I'm going to set it up, and I'm going to go ahead and let time be on our side, I guess you could say, and I'm going to release the other 4 satellites, which I may or may not do on camera. Really depends on how it's rolling, but there's our first of 4 satellites. Totally awesome. So I'll see you guys either on the ground in the VAB or at the next sat. Depends. Again, a new format, trying out a new format, trying to cut out as much garbage as possible. Just get things done, and have fun with it, and hopefully that works for us. So there goes our first sat, and then I will see you guys in just a moment. Alright everybody, here we are at our final destination. We have launched 3 of our 4 satellites. They're in a nice big square. It looks really, really awesome on the map screen. I may even show it to you guys. So let's go ahead and launch our last satellite by decoupling it. And there it goes. And then we are going to go ahead and switch over. And from here, we want to do a couple of things, including activate the engine. Well, we don't want to activate it just yet. We do want to bring down the power. It's really, really important that you bring down the power. We want to activate our engine. And then we also want to target an active vessel. That's what I always do for my big sat, while these ones just do passive arrays. And then, boom, one active vessel attachment. There it is. That is a big dish. That is the biggest dish you can get, as far as I'm aware. And it is super awesome. So here we go. We have ourselves powered now. We are at an orbital period of 6 hours, 7.5 seconds. Now that would actually cause a little bit of a drift. And I've been trying to keep the satellites in a pretty good area of each other. So what we're going to do is we're going to do what we've been doing before. And I can't believe we got out of that with so much power left over, but we did. It's really, really awesome. Well, fuel, not power per se, but fuel left over. So it's pretty awesome that we did that. So we're going to just slow down just a teeny tiny bit. We're not going to fire our engine just yet. We're going to let drift take us a little bit farther away from the satellite there. Let's go ahead and activate our, I'm not sure why that's there. There you go. I think it got moved because I had 4 Kerbal engineers on here, so there was that. Alright, so let's go ahead and activate our engine nice and slow. There we go. And that's going to drop us down a little bit. And that's all we need for now. And we'll switch back. Now I believe this is the D, so I'm going to rename this one. This is the Gateway 1 is what I call them. The Gateway 1 A, B, or 1, 1A, 1B, 1C. It's 1, 1A, 1B. Oh, excuse me, the Gateway C. I forgot to name the B. That was my bad. I'll have to go back and name it later. But there we go, 1 Gateway satellite. So now we have, if we take a look at our map, now we have a quad, well, a quadrangle, I guess you can get a cube, square, whatever, whatever you want to call it, in two-dimensional, three-dimensional space, of geosync satellites. Now, as you can see, 2 of these are lucky enough to be connected to the KSC at the same time, which is great. That was just a fluke of how they happened to come out. And then the other ones are connected. So what will happen is if we're over here, the satellite connection will go from the KSC to one of these sats, the 1A apparently, and then over here, and then out to wherever. And again, the only problem is if we're behind something, like if we're behind the moon, it can't see us, and it can't talk to us because of that. So that is actually a big thing. And that's the last time we're going to be looking at the map screen for a second. Now, I think I forgot. I did forget. I don't even think. Look, I forgot to do something. Oh, good. The Poodle engine generates power. Great. I was hoping for that. I forgot to put RTGs or solar panels on this little guy. Yeah, that was really, really, really my fault. But what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and burn away the rest of our fuel. Well, not the rest of our fuel. We're going to burn down into... well, we're going to bring Jote home, basically. Jote was out here doing his satellite stuff. We got the satellites up, and now it's time to bring Jote home. And again, for the purposes of brevity and because of our new system of attempting to make KSC a little bit more fun, and it's just like I said, it's a new format I'm trying out. And if I get it perfected, or if I get it looking good enough, or if I feel that it's working, it's going to be a permanent thing in Season 7. But for now, it's just sort of a test. And you guys give me a feedback on what you think about this. I know there's a lot of cuts. And I know those are like just little blips of video, but it's a trial and error kind of thing. And I had an idea of how I wanted to do it. I'm not sure it's translating well. But you guys give me a heads up on what you think. And while you guys think about that, during the 1/8 of a second it takes you to get to the next part of the video when Jote's on his way down, I will get him there. And you guys go ahead and tell me down in the comments what you think. And we'll see if we can get there. So yeah, I will see you guys, me and Jote and I will see you guys back on Kerbals, provided we don't run out of power. So yeah, I'll see you guys there. Alright everyone, here we are back at the VAB. I will say that Jote made it down to the ground perfectly safe, 100%, didn't have a problem. Had a little bit of an issue with electricity, but it was nothing to worry about. He survived because he didn't have a lot of time out there in space without electricity, and the Poodle engine was used on several occasions to beef our electricity back up. So he made it down to the ground just fine, everything's perfectly copacetic. Now, as you can see here, we have a brand new version of the same ship that was just launched with slightly different transmitters. Now, the reason for the slightly different transmitters is because it makes them lighter, and they are not required to transmit back to Kerbal. That's the thing. You know, we're not transmitting any science or anything, so they're only really required to receive a signal and then pass that signal on to vessels nearby. And so because of that, they're a little bit more simplistic. In the center, of course, as you can see, we have another mapping satellite because we're going to map Duna. You can't explore Duna unless you have a map of Duna, so we're going to map Duna as well. Now, hopefully, this thing actually has no nuclear engines on it, which is really awesome. The downside is if I don't know how many of you have used remote tech, but the way remote tech works is it has signal delay, and I have signal delay turned on. And even out by min-miss, signal delay of like half a second is enough to really mess you up, and so you have to start using automated controls where you tell the ship where to point, what to do. That's something we're going to have to start doing here, and I have never really done that except for just a teeny tiny bit, so I'm not sure how it's going to work, but we have the Compact 1 here, which is basically Communications Package 1. It's going to send 4 satellites to Duna. They're going to be put, it's not a geosync orbit, but because it's got 4, even if they're in a rotating orbit around Duna, they will still have enough coverage in order to continuously communicate with both Kerbin as well as whatever satellites or ships we may send. And then, of course, we have our ComSat, which are our mapping sat, which is going to map Duna. And then that's going to be great. So this is just going to be a probe mission. I think for purposes, because it doesn't matter if anyone dies, nothing's going to happen. If there are any explosions, of course, I'll show that. But we're going to go ahead and get this thing up into space. It should have a little bit of this orange tank left when we get there. From there, we're going to launch into launch out to Duna, and then once we get to Duna, I think I'll go ahead and show you guys again the satellite setup where we set up the satellites, and then start mapping. And probably I'll finish the map, and then I'll show you guys the map so we can plan our next trip, our next route, our next thing, because we have to do the map, and then we have to get our supplies out there, because we're gonna have to send supplies first. Yeah, it's gonna be a thing. We're gonna send supplies, and then we're gonna send Kerbals. Once you have that whole life-death thing, sending supplies first is super important. So, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and get this thing up there, and then depending on how things roll, I will either see you in orbit, or we'll see each other over at Duna, most likely at Duna, so I'll see you guys there. Alright everyone, here we are around Duna, and as you can see, we're outside of the orbit of, well, you can't really see it perspective-wise, but we are on the outside of the orbit of Ike. Geosynchronous orbit around Duna is 2880, which is exactly the same orbit as Ike, and there's no way, even on rails, to get a satellite in 100% exacting orbit. So if we were to put satellites in orbit, geosynchronous orbit around Duna, what we'd end up with is eventually Ike would either smash into them or they would smash into Ike, and that would be the end of it. So we're going to go around 4 million, we're at 4 million meters above the surface. It's outside the orbit of Ike by about, well, you know, about 1,100 meters or so, 1,100 million or 11 million, yeah, 11 million, anyway, it's, 1.1 millimeters, something like that. Anyway, it's out there, just on the outer edge of the orbit of Ike. Now, I took a look at the way the map works, the way the remote tech works, and I did a couple of things. One, I did in fact turn off as you can see, I turned off the signal delay. The reason why is because out here at Duna, it is a 2-minute 50-second signal delay, or 150 some odd seconds depending. It wouldn't seem like that much, except that when you tell it to do anything, it takes 2 minutes for the signal to get there. So in order to record and to make this work correctly, I'd have to send the signal, and then I'd have to fast forward time. Send the signal, fast forward time, and it'd be pointless. So, as a gameplay aspect, signal delay is kind of cool. As a recording aspect, signal delay is pointless. Now, I've been looking at this stuff, and I've been thinking to myself, how can we do this properly? And I think I know how. Now, this satellite, I believe, is the right one. Yes, this satellite is aimed at the Gateway 1C, which I believe is the one that's currently connected, if we can believe our map screen. And we're going to look at the map screen. We have one ship highlighted, the KSA Gateway 1C. So if this one's attached to the 1C and we detach it from our current ship should get a signal delay, or a signal relay, from the passive antennas. That is, if the passive antennas are activated, which I should in fact activate them. So we're going to activate these passive antennas, and then what we're going to do is, I'm hoping this will work. It should absolutely work just fine. I have no reason to believe it won't. Whether I release a separate, there it is, whether I release a separate relay satellite, or we release the relay satellite that's currently connected, either way it should work. We shouldn't lose signal, because we do have the passive arrays, and eventually one of them will pick up a signal. But we're going to go ahead and we're going to release the first of these, which will be, actually, let's take a look before we do that. I do want to take a look here. Our current orbital period is 1.2 days. Wow, really? So 1.2 days is the orbital period. That's actually really slow, because we are, of course, outside geosync orbit. So Duna will orbit one like slightly faster than we will. That actually works for us. That's okay. I was just thinking, if it's not geosync orbit, I have to figure out exactly what orbit it is, and it is in a 1.20. I guess we can fix that. We can either say 2. No, can't fix it. If I fix it, then there's a chance we'll hit Ike. This is a good place without having to fix stuff, so we are just going to ditch it, not going to worry about it. So let's go ahead and detach the Gateway 1C, which will be this one, and decouple. Now we should still be gaining, yep, we still have our connection, so now we are connected via bypass relay, or passive relay, passive relay, to this satellite, which is connected to the Gateway 1C back around Kerbin. Now, again, since we've already released one satellite, we're going to go ahead and go through, and I'll just go through and unleash the other 3 satellites, and everything should work perfectly fine when we do that. So I'll unleash. That's pretty nice pan there, pulled off. There, the shadow. So yeah, we're going to release the other 3 satellites. I'll go ahead and do that, most likely off camera, because it's just a matter of slowing down, waiting for the orbital period to adjust to where we're X number of whatever feet away from this. Usually at roughly a 90-degree angle from it, and then speeding up back to 1.209 days, and then releasing the next one, and so on and so forth. And that's basically how it works. And it's interesting, but it's not very fun. So I'll do that off camera, and then from there we'll get our mapper in place, and that will be super awesome. So I'll see you guys back when we are in polar orbit. And I may just cut to the map screen so we can discuss where we're going to start sending our stuff, because that's super important. So I'll see you guys when we get there. Alrighty, everyone, as you can see, I do have our map up. Was able to get it completed rather quickly once we got the satellite system up in orbit and everything was set and ready to go. I did have a little bit of a couple of bugs, I guess you could say, with the mapping system, including the bug with remote tech where from time to time a satellite will multiply itself many times inside its own body, thus creating a clipping issue, and the satellite thus explodes. And because it was a bug, I did just reload and avoided going back to that satellite. So we have 2 satellites pointed directly at 2 satellites here at Duna, and then we have 2 satellites in both locations, both at Kerbin and Duna, that are pointed at whatever active vessel may be within range. So that's pretty helpful for flight, as well as for passive transmissions here at Duna. Now, as you can see, when we take a look at our map, this is our high-low scan in black and white. Black and white, in my opinion, is easier to see than color. And we know that the low areas are black here. And there are several anomalies around here. We have one here, one way down here, and then one here in this area. And I think I think if the anomalies have not moved, the one that we're really interested in is this one right here, which means that, logically speaking, our best choice of landing zones, based on area of effect and ability to get to where we want to go, is here. Without question, it's here. Now, we can land anywhere along this ravine, I suppose, and it would work. Here, not so much, because as you can see, it's a lot higher up than these darker areas. But it'd be a lot harder to hit these areas correctly from a equatorial orbit. Even with an equatorial orbit, we might get lucky, and maybe we could just slam down in here. But we do also want to create a base, or at least a place where we can have enough supplies that our Kerbals could survive, like getting to Duna, landing, and exploring, and then be able to either leave or survive long enough to be picked up. Those are very important things, and are going to require a little bit of planning, as well as some of that horrible math stuff. But again, I think our best place is right here. That way we have access to 2 anomalies. I do know that some of these anomalies still are broken. But again, there's one anomaly that I'm really interested in up here that may in fact still be working, that may actually be working. And so for that reason, this is going to be our landing zone. So it's really super simple to pick our landing zone, of course. It's right here, right along the equator. We can't see it from where we're at. The next time we come back around, I think is here. We get pretty close to it. So I guess we could speed up time a little bit. Oh no, we're headed to the blue zone. We might still be able to see it if we're not on the dark side. So let's go ahead and speed up really quick, and that should be about right. Oop, not that map. I always said map. I'm like trying to close the map, and it's the wrong map. So if we take a look, yeah, it's a little bit in the dark side, but basically our landing zone will be right over in this area. So hopefully that works. If of course we miss, and I'm hoping that we won't miss, but if we miss, we should be fine. We should be able to just go, because I have a plan. I have a plan. Not only do I have a plan, but I have a really great design that I've been working on for our ships. I still have a base design, but I have some other designs worked out. But because we were able to map out the entirety of Duna and also choose our landing zone, that means our next stage, our next step, our next mission is to bring an automated ship out here to basically drop off all the bits and bobs that our little Kerbal friends are going to need to get back home. And that will have to wait until next video, I think. So for now, we'd like to thank you all very much for joining me for Kilobyte Short on this Let's Play of Kerbal Space Program with Kerbal Space Adventures. And please, like I said, trying out this new format, please give me a heads up on what you think of the new format. Tell me if you think there's too much, not enough content, too much content, too many cuts, not enough cuts, if you like my old videos better. I've just been trying to cut out all this stuff that has never made a lot of sense to have in it. And again, it's not perfected yet. I'm trying to do something very awesome. Like I said, more of a joke, but it actually would work. And that's the thing, and I'm just trying to get it to work out right. But tell me what you think. And please, just go ahead and drop it in the comments if you think that more content is better, if you like all the long-winded bits, like this bit here, or if you'd rather just see more of us getting stuff done. And absolutely, I will see you guys next video.